How's it going, everybody? My name is Tom Petrini, and this is the Big Fundamental Spurs live post-game show from Ken's Five and Big Fundamental Podcast. We're celebrating a Spurs win today. Spurs beat the Jazz 119-111. And no bones about it, this was a game that the Spurs absolutely 100% needed to win. The Jazz were playing without five of their best players. And I don't care how good your team is. If you're playing without five of your best players against a team that desperately needs to win to stay in the hunt in the playoffs, you shouldn't win that game. And the Jazz kept it close. They did not go away in this game. They were not keen on letting the Spurs run away with this one. So it made for some interesting times down the stretch of this one. But at the end of the day, Spurs pulled it out, got the win they needed, moved to 3-2 in the bubble, and moved to within striking distance for that 8th and 9th seed. So say hello in the comments. Let me know what jumped out in the game to you. I was just going to jump into this box score really quick. Every starter for the Spurs in double figures. That's a really excellent thing with this new unit, and I don't think that has happened yet. I'll have to go back and check these other bubble games, but 24 points for Derrick White, who shot 4 of 9 from 3, added 6 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block. He has been probably the best overall player for the Spurs in the bubble. And then Jakob had his best game of the bubble. Season high 19 points. He had 10 rebounds in this game, 2 assists, and 3 blocks as well. It was an interesting game for Poeltl, right? Because he was not nearly as aggressive as I thought he might be in terms of just dunking the ball for a guy that's that tall. If I was 7 feet tall, I wouldn't stop dunking a basketball ever. Like, even if the game was over, I would still be out there just jumping and putting the ball in the hole. I wouldn't even think about it. That would be my favorite thing to do. A little less keen on it for whatever reason. He doesn't quite like dunking it. He goes up a little softer. And it wound up hurting them against the Sixers. But, he didn't necessarily finish strong outside of that one dunk in this game. But he finished a lot. And he was the reason that the Spurs won the battle in the paint and won this game. The Jazz shot really well in this game. Jazz shot 16 of 37 from 3. That's 43%. And the Spurs shot 9 of 22 from 3. So the volume was much higher for their 3-point attempts, and they hit it at a higher clip than the Spurs. So how did the Spurs win this game? Well, they dominated the paint. Spurs scored 64 points in the paint to Utah's 36. And Jakob was a big part of that, obviously. We also need to talk about the rest of the starters for the Spurs in this game. DeRozan had 13 points. I think he did pretty much all of his scoring work in the first. I don't think he really did much in the fourth quarter at all. And yes, of course, the Jazz played their G League guys. Yeah, they had a guy from Hofstra, Long Island represent. What's going on? This was not. This was a team that the Spurs should have beaten, and they did. Just one of those things where you would love to see them put them away earlier. You would love to see them not have to worry about them kind of late in the game. But they took care of business, did what they needed to do. Lonnie Walker, he had a sneaky, really good game. Only had 14 points, but did a lot of that in the fourth quarter and just made really, really good reads moving off the ball. That's a part of his game that's pretty underrated, is the way he moves and gets open and cuts. Anytime the defense forgets about him, he's either moving to open space at the three-point arc or cutting toward the basket. He's very efficient and sets himself up for efficient shots with his motion off the ball. And I asked him about that after the game, and he basically said that he just watches his teammates and sees what they do and reacts to that. Um, and he also played pretty well defensively in this one. But yeah, there were a couple of plays in the fourth quarter where he made a nice back cut, got a dunk, got a layup and one. Really smart, high IQ basketball plays. Pop said, I don't think the game's slowing down for him because he's so fast. And he thinks he can beat everybody out there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. He said they don't want to take away that competitiveness and that drive to go out and run past and dunk over everybody. So, but he has notably improved his shot selection. He's not forcing it. He's letting the game come to him a little bit. He's still attacking, but he's been a really impressive all-around player for the Spurs in this bubble format. And then Dejante Murray, his play, his decision-making has been a topic of discussion over the last couple games. Definitely could have been better in the two losses. But he had a good all-around game today. 11 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. And he just made good decisions with the ball. He's one of those guys who's really elusive off the dribble. He loves those, crossing over into mid-range shots, floaters. And defensively, when he's out there with all of those other guys, is really special to watch. And the Spurs defense has been getting better. They certainly still have some kinks to work out. But by playing the personnel, that's 4 really, really good defenders and DeMar DeRozan. And as Evan said on the last show, if DeMar's the 5th best defender out there, then the Spurs are going to be really good on defense. And it opens up DeMar to be a little more aggressive and use his big body and his intelligence on that end of the floor, so he's not covering up for people's mistakes. He had 2 steals in this game. Happy birthday to DeMar, by the way. But another guy who we need to talk about here is Rudy Gay. I mean, he's been fantastic in the bubble. There are definitely flaws in his game, but he shot 2 or 3 from 3 today. Continues to shoot really hot in the bubble. 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. And he's the guy down the stretch that's playing center for the Spurs in spurts. He can be a small ball 5 who can go get buckets expeditiously. There was a period in the third quarter of this game where he scored 5 quick points, dropped the dime to Jakob down low, and then scored another 5 quick points in about 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Not many players on the Spurs can go get you 10 quick ones like that. And he's still a bucket. He's still very effective at what he does. And now he's hitting that 3-point shot that he struggled with all year. So Rudy Gay has been huge for the Spurs in this restart. He actually scored more points in the 2 losses, and that makes it hurt because the Spurs wasted great performances from him. But he's giving those great performances way more consistently than I was expecting him to, based on what he did during the regular season pre-restart. He's been fantastic. Another guy who's been a surprise for me in the bubble, Drew Eubanks. I mean, I really did not expect much from Drew Eubanks. I thought Chimezie Metu would probably get a little bit more run. And Drew's been really, really good. He's got a nice little hook shot down low. He makes good decisions. He sets good screens, plays hard. He's a more explosive athlete that allows him to play bigger than his frame. But yeah, he's been really good. And Marco had a good game. 8 points for the Italian sharpshooter. It was all in the first half, but he made an impact. Keldon played 24 minutes, 4 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 assist, and a block. He's just all over the court. he was coming off 2 consecutive double-digit scoring nights. He went 15 career high and then 20 career high. But even if he doesn't score, he's going to be a really solid contributor. Weatherspoon played 8 minutes. He had 4 points, 2 assists. He was fine. He's been all right. I saw a comment in the Twitter feed here. Somebody compared Derrick White to Kyle Lowry. I really like that comparison. That's what I landed on in the last episode of the Big Fun Pod, because if you guys follow my 4 a.m. tweets, you know that a couple of days ago I was a little drunk on Derrick White and said that he was Klay Thompson with a dribble package. Obviously an exaggeration, but Derrick White is top 5 in the league in threes made in the bubble restart. He's been shooting over 6 or 7 a game, every game consistently. And every game he's hitting a consistent clip of them. So his shot's been really good, and his defense is spectacular. His all-around game he's one of the more complete basketball players I've seen. He does a little bit of everything, especially whatever the team happens to need at that moment. Today he was running pick and roll with Jakob Poeltl. That connection is fantastic. He was hitting threes with defenders in his jersey. So he's been fantastic. He's been a revelation for the Spurs. I remember in the beginning of the season, we were talking about what the starting lineups were going to be. And, people looked at me funny because I said it was a question whether it would be Derrick or Dejante as the starting point guard. And they started Dejante to start the year. All defensive player in the last year that he was healthy. Excuse me. No big deal. Just, the youngest all defensive player in NBA history, whatever. And he's a solid player, but Derrick, because he's older, because he's more seasoned, and his all-around game is more complete, and now he has that three-point shot and the confidence and the green light. I mean, Derrick, I've seen a lot of you saying Derrick is the best basketball player on the Spurs. And it's a fair debate to have. Obviously, DeMar is, an elite talent scoring the basketball, setting his teammates up. But Derrick defends at an all-defensive level, and he's dropping, 24, 6, and 4. And he's been extremely consistent throughout this entire restart. Derrick is the Spurs bubble player of the year so far. I anticipate that trend continuing. He's just been too good, and his game is too crisp to really stop him. And now he's confident. He's always been talented. He's always been a guy who has the requisite skills, but now he's playing like an alpha dog. Like he's not scared of anybody out there. He's demonstrative. He's directing traffic with his teammates. And he's just been exceptionally good during the restart for the Spurs. He's the biggest reason they're 3-2. And if you think about how close the previous 4 games were, Spurs are a couple of bounces away from 5-0 or 1-4. But they're 3-2, and they are still very much in the hunt for that final playoff spot in the Western Conference. Let's take a look at the standings. After the win today, the Spurs move to just a game and a half back of Memphis for the 8th seed and a game back of Portland. So that's striking distance. Spurs are right there. And today, the Sacramento Kings play Brooklyn. That's going to be, I mean, we're going to need to root for the Long Island Nets there to figure that one out. And Zion is sitting out of New Orleans game against Washington. Both the Kings and the Pelicans are behind the Spurs now by a full game. So they won't catch the Spurs with wins today. But if they lose, it'll knock them further back, which, you're always trying to see. The Spurs jumped over the Phoenix Suns, who jumped them last night. Suns haven't lost a game in the bubble. Yikes. What is happening? I haven't watched a minute of Suns basketball in the bubble, but I'm going to give all of the credit to former Spur NBA champion Aaron Baines. Love him. Yeah, Devin Booker too. He's all right. Whatever. It's mainly Bainesy. But I mean that brings us to the conversation about this 8th seed for the Western Conference. Memphis Grizzlies haven't won in the bubble, and they're in serious danger of falling right out of the 8th seed and out of the playoffs entirely. They lost Jaren Jackson Jr. to an injury, and they're in really rough shape. They're in serious danger of losing this. And they've got, let's count them, Blazers, Spurs, Suns, Kings, Pelicans. 5 teams are within 2.5 games of them. So it's really tough sledding for Memphis. Blazers have been great. They've been shooting the lights out. Suns haven't lost. And the Pelicans, I mean, it's tough because they've only gotten so much time out of Zion. I don't know what the deal is with him. I don't know how healthy he is. I think they're being cautious after the long layoff with a guy that big and explosive. They've seen the injuries to a lot of these larger players, and they're holding him out for rest tonight on the second night of back-to-back, which makes sense. But I mean, the Spurs are in really good position to make a run here, at least at the 9th seed, maybe even the 8th seed, which that wasn't even on the radar coming in. Could the Spurs make a push all the way into the 8th seed in earnest before the play-in games? It was pretty much assumed by most that the Grizzlies would be able to hold on to that 8th seed and have the advantage in the play-in game, which, remember, the 8th seed is going to need to win just once, and the 9th seed would need to win twice. So it'll be Derrick versus Dame. What a point guard matchup, huh? I would love to watch Derrick White just all over Damian Lillard. Like from a basketball fan perspective, with no vested interest in the game, I would love to watch that. If I had to actually watch that with a playoff spot on the line for the Spurs, it would probably give me like serious physiological reaction. I don't know if I'd be able to handle that. But I mean, it's exciting. You can't say that this bubble restart for the Spurs and for the NBA in general hasn't been exciting. It's been so much fun to watch these guys. They're playing at a really high level. The gameplay has been pretty crisp. These guys are hitting shots. And the Spurs, in particular, with this new group, have developed so much chemistry that's just so much fun to watch. And aside from being exciting, they're meaningful. Like, I know how much everybody was upset after the Sixers lost, that they blew a 4-point lead in the last minute, and they could have been 3-0 in the bubble. And that one stung. That one hurt. But it was a learning experience, first of all. And the Spurs have said throughout this restart they're trying to develop the young players, and they developed through that loss. But it hurt because it means something. It's not a meaningless game. And this this playoff hunt. Oh my God! In the post game presser today, somebody got popped very hard. Uh, he jumped in and asked him. He asked Pop if there were any aspects of the pennant race that he liked, and Pop like just looked off camera. He was like, "I'm getting a question about the pennant race. Is this the baseball season?" And just roasted this guy. So I don't know that he was so happy that the Spurs let the Utah Jazz summer league team basically hang around for so long. Um, but a win's a win, and the Spurs really, really needed this one. If the Spurs lost this game with the Jazz lineup the way it was, um, first of all, it would have been horrible for the standings. But I don't know how you recover mentally from that with 3 games to play. You pretty much guaranteed need to win all of them against the Pelicans and the Jazz again and the Rockets. Um, I think the Spurs could probably drop one of those games now and still make the play-in game. Uh, it depends how everything goes for these other teams, though. Um, so we're really going to have to wait and see. But overall, I think these young Spurs with this new starting lineup are a genuine threat. I mean, not to a title, but to make this run and get into that last spot. And it's because they're playing an entirely different brand of basketball with almost entirely different personnel getting heavy minutes. The rotation's completely different. And it has opened up so much for this Spurs team, and it's been really, really fun to watch. So, obviously, let me know what you think of this game moving forward, what I should watch for when I watch the film. I'm on Twitter at RealTomPetrini. This is the Big Fun live post-game show. And we'll be back next time, hopefully talking about another Spurs win. Their next game, let's check the schedule. I'm pretty sure it's Sunday. Let's pull that up. Yeah, 2 p.m. On ABC against the Pelicans. It'll be a fun one. We're expecting Zion to play after resting today. And we all remember his NBA debut against the Spurs where he came in and shot the lights out. I was actually at the preseason game that New Orleans played in San Antonio, and it was a preseason game, so I splurged for seats close to the court and saw him up close, and man, he is an absolute unit. He's tremendous, and he's a tremendous talent. It's not just the big body that makes him so good. He's an excellent basketball player. So Spurs are going to have their hands full, and no team has a guy that can really guard Zion effectively one-on-one. But I mean, it's Spurs rookie Keldon Johnson is going to need to have a big game. He might be one of the only ones that has a body big enough and foot speed quick enough to deal with Zion. So that's a matchup that I'll be watching closely. I think if it's DeMar DeRozan that gets stuck guarding him in this small Spurs lineup, it'll be tough. It's a good point, Mary Jo. I need to go back and watch the tape from when Kentucky played Duke and see how Keldon guarded Zion. And Keldon's a competitor. It wouldn't surprise me if he said, "Hey, coach, I can get him." He's not afraid of anybody. He's up to every single physical challenge. And that's been one of the great things to watch about this Spurs team for this whole restart. So with that, I'm going to head out. It's been great hanging out, talking to all you guys. Again, I'm Tom Petrini on Twitter at RealTomPetrini. And you can find me there pretty much anytime. I'll be back here for the next post-game show. And till then, go Spurs, go.